numerous things that can go wrong. And I have a list of probably 25 of them, and I'm sure everyone in the room could add another 10. Because seeing a pretty picture, going there and signing a contract is the beginning, just the beginning. And from there on, the troubles mount. And one of my favorite stories is that I was at a closing a couple of years ago, and there was a bank supposed to come, and they were late, and we were all sitting around, and there were no principals, just lawyers. And people were telling their little war stories about what went wrong with this closing and what happened there. And there was this guy, kind of an old, kind of pudgy guy from Long Island who represented somebody. And he said, "Well, I'm waiting till you're all finished." I said, "What?" He said, I always have the story that tops every other story." So everybody goes, "Oh, sure. Well, what's the story?" So he said, "Well, I had a client on Long Island, and they were buying a house, and they'd had an engineer come through and everything, and we were scheduled to close, and there was the pre-closing walkthrough. So he decided to bring his brother, who was an architect or an engineer, to the pre-closing walkthrough. And they go through the house. It's a fairly large house in a nice neighborhood. They look at the house. He wants to go down and see the plumbing. They go, he's got his little flashlight. They go, and they look underneath the added-on porch, which doesn't have a basement. It was one of those little half basements. And the brother-in-law says, "What's that there? It looks like a drum." And not a drum like this, but and he said, "Maybe there are some chemicals in there. You should get that out. You shouldn't close before they remove this." Okay, so anyway, they had to kind of cut away a little bit to get the drum out and so forth. The drum was full of cement. And it looked very strange. So they adjourned the closing, and they had this x-rayed and did all this kind of thing, and they found that there was a dismembered body of a woman in the trunk, and she was pregnant. And the present owner of the building had no idea how this happened. He said the porch was there when I bought it. It must have been built around the porch or something, because it didn't readily come out. And so there was this, of course, the closing didn't take place. Everything was covered with yellow tape, crime scene, this, that, the other thing. The buyer had his stuff in the trunk of the, in the moving truck. He didn't know where to go. The seller had moved out. So the police then started an investigation, and the prior owner lived in Florida. He was an elderly gentleman. And the local police went down, and they started to question him, and he said, "Well, excuse me, I have to go to the other room a minute. I'm going to go to the bathroom." And he went to the other room and blew his brains out. Wow. And it turned out that this was someone who had worked for him. He was in the garment business. She was from the islands, so nobody really knew who she was, or family weren't looking for her. And then she got pregnant, and I don't know whether he knocked her off or how it happened, but I mean, it's just a great example of the eventualities that can happen before you close.